In My Mug, episode 316 on Monday, the 1st of December 2014. I am your host, Stephen Layton. Welcome to In My Mug. And what we always start with is definitely the news. So instead of a bong, I want sleigh bells because it's Christmas and Christmas is upon us. And who wouldn't want to receive one of these wonderful gift cards for Christmas? A must for every coffee lover. Or an In My Mug subscription where you get a little card and you can kind of give it, and they're on the site and you should definitely buy them. They are amazing. Our decorations are up on the site, so it means that it must be Christmas, which means our Christmas posting times and opening times are on the front page. There's a little banner where you can click through and it's got like a little delivery van for shipping times and opening times. We also have some special Christmas gifts on there as well. It is definitely worth checking out. And this month's guest blend comes from Esther's, that is in London, and very excited to have this blend as they gave us the brief of just your most favourite coffees. Money is no object, and money was no object in building this blend. It is a bit special and I think you will enjoy it. It's some of my favourite coffees of the year. And that was the wonderful news. So now we should go to focus on, and it's time to focus on El Salvador coffee production.
Today we're going to do the focus on in Salvadorian coffee production. Actually, I don't want to use this. So we're going to talk a little bit about Salvadorian coffee production. I'm Alejandro Martinez from Finca, Argentina. El Salvador historically has produced in between 1 million to 1.5 million bags. But lately, due to the leaf rust disease that affected us a couple years ago, production actually is down to 700,000, 600,000 bags. For this year, we, as an industry, don't expect significant improvements, mainly about 20%. I'm kind of worried a bit long term for coffee production in El Salvador. Main problems are there's not a lot of incentives for people to keep producing coffee. There's a big generational shift, and not a lot of the young growers actually want to keep on doing it. So,
will you stop trying to take over my In My Mug? You tried to do this in episode 300. Folks, I'm really interested. I was out there listening, really. So, it's obviously a problem at the moment with the all those things going on. Do you think the leaf rust affected El Salvador more because of the lack of gene diversity, with lots of Bourbon, which is very susceptible to leaf rust, and Pacamara and Pacas, which are again quite susceptible to? Right. Do you think that was a main reason for it being such a big problem?
Personally, I don't. My own opinion is that the tree stock that we have is very old. Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of new plantings or significant new plantings over the last 30-40 years. And
do you think that because of the Civil War and the kind of where a lot of the farms got abandoned for a while?
Farms got abandoned, and because during the Civil War you didn't get a lot of foresight into what may happen with the country, a lot of people decided not to invest, and that kind of led to this thinking that it's not necessary to do replanting. It just stay with the old trees and that's fine. I've seen plantations with 100-year-old trees, and it's just shocking. It's like, wow, it's way too old. So it's also a generational change with the coffee growers. I think there are a lot of coffee growers now that actually get it, and they're trying to improve the yields via new plantings that will be better in terms of the ability to yield, and also better to support diseases and pests.
I guess also a big thing in El Salvador is paras, with the bending and taking, but that's still using very old plant stock as well. And although you're getting new shoots, you've got a root structure, right, and a heart of the plant that's still very old. And
that's correct.
It kind of almost cons you into thinking that it's new plant stock, where it's not. It's the old plant just bending over and new shoots coming up. So I guess that's also going to play a part.
Yeah.
Good focus on. Well done. Much better than I would have done.
Right. But the last thing I would like to mention and focus on is that's affecting coffee production in our countries. We've gone from 420,000 manzanas, I think is the latest statistic, if I remember correctly, maybe 5-6 years ago, and now the latest is we're at about 375,000 manzanas of coffee production. So the areas of coffee production have actually gone down, and when you look at countries like Honduras or Nicaragua that border El Salvador, their actual coffee production areas are going up.
So what is it? What's the land being used for now? Is it grazing, or is it just different farming, or what's?
One, it may just be abandoned, so you just lose the farm. The medium altitude, not necessarily specialty, but the medium altitude farms may be better
about
suited.
700-800 meters, something like that.
800-900 meters.
Yeah.
They may be closer to a highway, better suited for housing facilities. So a lot of the farmers, they get out. Just sell the land, build houses. That's it.
Yeah, no, I can kind of get I mean, population's on the up, isn't it, in El Salvador, and it's a booming country population-wise, and but also there seems to be a lot of foreign investment as well, and people don't necessarily want to work on a farm; they want to work in a call centre or an office,
that too. But I think labor for the farms is still available.
Okay.
A lot of rural populations. And they need the farms for their livelihoods, and you can get good people. Sometimes not in that area, but in other areas you can. So you have to bring them over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a good focus on. Very good focus on. Far better than I could have done. So obviously you're from Finca, Argentina, farm that we know pretty well now. Do you want to tell the guys the story how we kind of got to know each other?
I think we said this a few times, right?
We have, but it's like, listen, there's always new people diving into in my mug, and also people forget because you're really boring and they don't listen to what you're saying.
So no, but I'll tell the story with a new twist.
Okay.
So actually, to me, Steve has always been like, Steve, right? From Haspin, Steve, and we're good friends, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I just sent a sample through a cousin of mine that lives in the UK, and Steve got it, put it on the table, and thought, wow, this coffee's really good. Sure, I'll buy from you. So he bought a really small amount, and then over the years we've increased the amounts of coffee that he buys, and we've done a lot of things together in the farm. I value the advice that Steve gives me a lot, with new things and things to try. But to me, Steve has always been Steve. Until this year, we actually took a trip together to see some farms, and after that, I was talking to some of the guys that we were with over some beers, and they were mentioning they were asking me, how did you manage to get your coffee through to Steve? Like, it's amazing that Steve is selling your coffee. I'm like, really? How so? Don't you know? Like, Steve is like Steve, and I'm like, oh. I
am Steve, it's quite right.
But at that point, I didn't realize how much a lot of the coffee farmers actually admire Steve and the work he does. Because for me, kind of got in a back way, I guess, and we've developed this relationship, and it's always been kind of weird. But and I don't know if you're going to edit this out, but
no, not at all. No, not at all. It's very kind of you to say, but like, we're lucky we work with some great people. But a lot of the people I've kind of met through Cup of Excellence, or I've met through other relationships with other producers, and you just kind of came out of the blue with this bag of coffee through the post and went, try this, and it was like, okay. And we get a lot of that. We get an awful lot of samples come through, and most of them are pretty awful. It was a shock to find a good one, and it's the only way. Yours is the only coffee I've ever bought that way. Out of all of the samples we have, and we have like 1 or 2 a week turn up. My uncle owns a farm, and it was that. My cousin owns a farm in El Salvador. It's not that story. Like, I've heard this a few times, but it was interesting the first time we met. So Ali heard that I was in San Salvador.
Right.
And emailed me. He's like, "Hey, you're in San Salvador," and I'd got like 3 days. That was it. It was like the tightest trip. And I said, "Look, I am, but I'm booked up." I booked to lie in bed one morning because I'd got a flight in the evening, and I thought I'll just lie until midday and then just go and do the bits. And I said, "Look, all I've got is 6 o'clock in the morning until midday, and I need to be back at the hotel midday. If you can do that, then we'll do it."
Yeah.
And like 5:30, you sitting outside the hotel in his pickup truck. Come on, let us go. And and the rest is. Now I have to book to go. I always have to arrange it and book the time. But back then it was just like, it was just a weird trip, and it worked well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So tell us about the farm, where it is, how long it's been in the family, and a little bit about Fincona too. And
Okay.
yeah.
So Argentina was bought by my grandfather back in 75 or 73. He managed it for a long time. Then he passed away. Mid 80s, my father inherited. My father has always been a farmer, but mainly different things, really not coffee. I think I know more about coffee farming than he does, but he knows a lot about farming in general.
Yeah.
So he grew macadamia nuts, so he made me plant some macadamia trees at the farm, rice, soybeans, a whole host of things. So Argentina is basically 50 manzanas, which translates into about 35 hectares. It's something
Which is quite big for El Salvador.
right, it's a medium size.
Yeah. There's a lot, like we buy from some farms that are like 7 or 8 hectares. So, it's kind of like, you think about like La Lujon, that these guys will have a reference point, is like 8 hectares.
Right.
So, it's a lot bigger than somewhere like that.
So it's subdivided in 7 tablons. I think 2 years ago with Steve, we actually sold the coffee from all the different tablons.
Which was amazing. It was like, it went so well. Like, people really bought into that stuff. I think the vast majority was that everybody still preferred the San Jorge, which is the lot that you originally sent me.
Right.
But all the others had such diversity in what is, a small plot of land in one area. So there's San Jorge, Fincona 2, Los Mangos.
Fincona 1, where we have the Cadimore.
Yeah.
That actually, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they actually enjoy the Cadimore a lot.
Yeah.
If you have comments, please Twitter me at Finca Argentina.
Yeah, you can follow him on Twitter, and I'll get them to put the link on the screen so they can see.
Okay,
you might get a couple of followers from it.
No, absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. Fincona 1, Fincona 2, and then there's
Los Mangoes, and then some of the other ones that we don't. That every now and then, depending of the quality, whether we get a good one or not.
Yeah.
That is Cuatro Manzanas, Piletas, and Huachipolín.
So Pilates was one of my favourites.
Yeah,
but it's
tricky. It's on and off.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And so, what happens with the coffee that you isn't up to the standard that we would buy? Where do you find a home for that afterwards?
Stuff usually goes through the mill, and they sell it. Either they blend it with other coffees and they sell it
like as an SHG or something like
that.
They
sell it commercially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So. Interesting developments with the mill. The mill that you've always worked with has changed this year. So we've got a new mill going to be processing this year's coffee.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about the mill and kind of how you end up finding a mill in it. So a lot of farms will have the mill on the farm and they'll have it there ready to go. Whereas in El Salvador, that's not so common. It's more unusual. You would normally take it to a mill that will process it and do it all there.
Traditionally, coffee in El Salvador was processed washed, so you need a lot of water. And most of the farms are up in the mountains, and they do not have water there.
But you also need the warmer temperatures to dry them as well. And the higher up you go, it's a bit cooler. It's
That may be an issue too. But the main issue is water. So basically, all the mills were in the history of El Salvador were actually built at the lower altitudes, where there's a big basin, and underneath there's a large supply of water. So that's why.
Yeah. And that's fairly common as well. So in Nicaragua, you see a lot of the mills are at the lower temperature. So you bring the cherry down to the centre point, which is normally the valley, and then it all gets processed and done there. So how do you go about finding a new mill in El Salvador?
Okay, so a lot of it is trust. You gotta make sure that the people that are going to be processing the coffee are they have the right equipment and the right attention to detail. So this year I actually visited a friend of the family, Emilio Lopez, who owns El Manzano, and did a few visits. Really like him, really like the approach he's taking with the coffee, and he actually is the one that Emilio provided the coffee and processed the coffee for the U.S. Barista Champion of this year for Leila Gabbard.
Oh, for Leila.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, fantastic.
So he did.
I remember because she talked about him and she had the photos of the farmer and the guy at the mill as well. So okay, that's interesting.
So I think his mill is a small mill. He processes like 7,000 quintales, so it's not a large amount. And I think that's a plus because I wanted to really take good care of the coffee from Argentina.
How much did El Mono process? The height?
El Mono ranged between 25,000 to 35,000 quintales.
So that's the previous mill, so it was doing 3-4 times as much.
And with Steve, we always struggled. They did a good job. They were amazing. They did a good job, but they have, because they had a lot of production, they had a lot of, their focus was more on commercial, and it's hard to change the
I used to turn up and this pain in the ass from the UK turned up and wanted to cup stuff. Like, cup? Oh, we'll have to dust off the sample roaster. And
no, we always cup, but
I think it could be for different things though. But, but every year I came, the cupping room got a bit better, and like the first time I came up, it was pretty awful.
Right.
It was
but
pretty awful.
After you gave me some input, we decided to try to improve it a bit, and
definitely,
we went through
definitely,
that.
and he got lots better. It really did. Yeah. So the farm this year, we know last year. So this year's crop that we got, is the In My Mug this week, which was vastly reduced. Like, so you lost like 90% of the crop.
Correct.
And that was down to pruning. It was down to replanting, and it was also down to leaf rust, which was a big problem. How's the farm now?
So the farm now, I think it has recovered significantly. It's not up to the level I would like, but it's certainly up. At this date, where we're talking here now, but at this date, I already have it in the whole production that we harvested last year, which was about 112 quintales. And these early already have that already delivered, and we're still waiting for, a lot of the coffee is still green, so we're still waiting for that. So we're expecting significantly more, which is
El Salvador picking tends to start early October, mid-October, and can run through till February, can't it? February, March time.
Right.
So that's great that it's kind of there already. I'm going to talk a little bit about a lot that isn't this one that we're going to be cupping on In My Mug, which is kind of weird, but we'll explain why at the end. So I want to talk about San Jorge, and San Jorge is very much like, I remember you telling me the story, that was the coffee your granddad used to take home to drink himself, because it was the best. I also love that it's St. George, St. George and the like St. George on Argentina. Like, the Argentinians hate us, so you call the best part of their farm
St. George.
St. George. They'll go crazy at that. But San Jorge has always been special to me, and we did a bit of an experiment last year with Dale.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and do you want to tell people kind of a little bit about what we did on that plot this year?
So Dale gave me a call, and he wanted to use San Jorge for barista competition, and he really wanted to work closely with the producer and try to determine sort of what, as a producer, we could do to influence the flavor of the bean in the end. So basically we decided to over-fertilize the coffee via foliar sprays, and we separated San Jorge into 3 different parts, each one less than a hectare actually. And in one we just did the traditional type of nutrition for that one, and then
so that would be like 3 big sprays.
No, it just 3 fertilizations to the ground.
Yeah,
your standard.
So just not what you would normally do. You just go run through a few months, run through,
right.
And then with plot B.
Now the other 2 plots, what we did was we applied foliar sprays, significant amounts of foliar sprays every 15 days, because that's the time it takes for the coffee plant to move all the nutrients around. So every 15 days we were spraying the plant for 2.5 months, more or less.
But also analysing soil and leaf to see what was going in, what was missing, and what needed to be upped.
Correct.
So changing the levels, which I thought, like, this was an amazing eye-opener to me, that you can kind of see what the plant needs more of. So
we were putting all that in, and then that lot we actually, in one area, we applied molybdenum, and in the other one we didn't. We were just trying to see if we could increase the sweetness of the cup.
So molybdenum is something that's used in sugarcane farming, which increases the sweetness in sugarcane farming. And Ali had this idea. So this wasn't me and Dale being clever. This was saying to Ali, if you could do anything you wanted on the farm, any experiment, what would you do? And you'd read about this molybdenum in a
we researched with some technicians, and then we did more research on it. And
there was like 1 tub in the whole of El Salvador. And didn't you go and get like the sample tub from the guy? So he's like,
I went to the technicians, like, sure, I'll buy the molybdenum, and he's like, oh, I think I only have a liter. I'm like, fine, just give me the liter, and he actually gave it for free, so we could try it out if if there's any actual impact of it. And to me, it was great because actually my dad doesn't believe in foliar sprays. There have been studies that he has read that foliar sprays don't really influence the yield that you get out of the coffee. So what we were trying to assess from my perspective is, if it doesn't influence on the yield, how does it influence on the quality of the cup? So to me, it was also great to see if we overspray it, provide over nutrition, does it really influence the cup?
I think where it's really interesting as well is like Tablon's like Pilates. It's like it's like an 84, an 85 point cup,
Right.
And like when we cupped these 3 lots from San Jorge, like I cupped the first Inglaterra and I think it was like an 87, 86, 87, something like that. And then I cupped the next one with just the foliar sprays and not the molybdenum. I was like, this is better. This is a little bit more sweetness. It's a little bit more rounded and pronounced. It's like 87, 88. And then we got to the molybdenum one and went, that's a lot sweeter. That's like an 88, 89. And this was completely blind on a table. And we repeated it back here and found exactly the same results. And it was just like, if we can do that to a coffee that's already really good, what can we do to Pilates? What can we do to Fincona 1? What can we do to varietals that are hardier but don't produce as good a cup? And these were the questions that it started to ask in my head. So we took this coffee, we had a tiny amount of each. It was like 15, 20 kilos, something like that. It was of each one.
Very small amounts.
I remember bringing the first lot back in my luggage because I had to bring it for the competition, thinking I was going to get like stopped at customs, and because it was a more significant amount of coffee than I normally carried as samples. And then we roasted it for Dale's competition, and in the competition he used the sprayed one without molybdenum and the test one, and then got through to the finals. And for the finals we used the sprayed one and the molybdenum. And because barista competition you have to do run throughs and all the rest of it, we chewed through probably 10 kilos of it, something like that. But we got 10 kilos left and we had no idea what to do with it. No idea.
That's right.
So what have we come up with this week? Actually, before I do all that, I should explain. Ali's been here for 2 weeks learning how to roast, and he's been kind of living with us.
I don't know if Steve wants to say this on the screen because you're going to get more visitors.
It's fine. But, it's fun. It's been fun. It's been fun hanging out.
And visiting relatives, and since I was in the UK, I told Steve, can I hang out? So he said, sure, come on over, and we've been hanging out. I've been annoying him a lot. And
we're going to the football on Saturday.
We're going to football
on Saturday. Sunderland against Chelsea. This will be out by then, so they'll know the result,
awesome.
and they'll know whether we're happy or sad. But,
he got me a Doctor Who scarf.
I've got a Sunderland scarf for you to wear at the game. But yeah, so we had 10 kilos of coffee left. I had no idea what to do with it because it's such a small amount. I don't even know, and it was kind of a little bit more expensive to do than, you know, and molybdenum was free, but if we'd had to buy that, and all the other sprays and the analyses were more expensive. So what have you come up with as a way of marketing this coffee? What are we going to do?
I think we're going to do a special Christmas blend. So you'll be able to taste. Actually, they're washed and pub naturals for the 3 San Jorges, and it's gonna be 5 coffees. You're gonna be able to try them all, and maybe you can notice the subtle differences that we taste in the different lots. I mean,
5 coffees from 1 hectare. Like, it's a tiny plot of land. It's the best of the farm. You know, San Jorge for me has always come out as the best of the farm, and it's the one we've always charged a little bit more money for because I think he deserved it. But this is unique. Like, I don't know anywhere else you can try this. And we've got a lovely presentation box to put them in. We've got a lovely booklet with my story, your story, and Dale's story about using the coffee. I think it's pretty cute. It's going to be good.
I hope people like it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Do.
And it's seriously limited amounts as well. So you're going to pre-order. We're going to roast it all on one day because it's just one roast of each. So I better not screw that one up, had I?
Yeah.
But it's just going to be like, you know, that when it's gone, it's gone. And I think it's a great Christmas present for somebody that, you know, likes the farm, because there's a lot of fans of Argentina because they've met you at London Coffee Festival and seen you on this a few times now. But no, I think it's going to be really good. You're also, I haven't told you this either, but you're also going to be Grower of the Month for December on the website. Nice. He was our first ever Grower of the Month.
Appreciate it.
And I got an email about, I don't know, it was about 7 or 8 months into doing Grower of the Month. He says, why am I never Grower of the Month? And I was like, You were the first. But because of this special pack and because of you being here, we're going to have you as grower of the month for December. And this pack's a great opportunity to try some awesome coffee.
Oh, no. And the other thing I want to mention to everybody, taking the opportunity, is after we did this whole foliar spraying, right, for Dale's Coffee, this year we've actually decided to keep one of the persons, Don Marco, he's the one that did the foliar sprays. I decided to keep him working specifically on San Jorge, and one other person, Alfredo. So these two guys have been working the whole year full time just on San Jorge. So these harvests I'm actually expecting to be great.
Fantastic.
But we'll see. And that's a pilot program that I want to do. Just by lot have people responsible for that lot. And if the lot turns out great, they can actually see some rewards from it.
Yeah.
And some incentives. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And
Really
just
good.
bringing it out there.
I'm thinking on my feet here because this is the first time you've told me about this, but maybe we should have an in-house competition between the lots, blind cupping competition,
Right. Yeah, we should.
and then we'll work out the pricing accordingly and make sure that they all get a bonus. We'll work something out.
They will love that.
We will talk some more about this.
Okay, excellent.
So Fincona 2 is the one that we're going to do, and these guys have got us there in my mug this week.
Oh, okay, great.
Tell us a bit about Fincona 2, where it is on the farm, what the soil in particular is like, because each Tablon has a unique set of circumstances to it, doesn't it?
Yes, we actually measured the whole farm, all the soil characteristics of each Tablon, and Fincona 2, interestingly enough, is split. It's like a rectangle, it's split down the middle. One side has a little bit more clay than the other. Both of them have a lot of organic matter. The soil is very loose. It just makes growing coffee there so much easier. Fincona 2 starts slowly going up, and then towards half of the Tablon it gets really steep. What else can I tell you? It's all Bourbon, all trees. It's actually on my replanting schedule, but it won't be replanted for maybe 3 more years, and we're gonna rip it all out and do it brand new. But the coffee tends to have a citrus acidity to it. I taste oranges.
Yeah. It's always a big descriptor for me with the
oranges.
Oranges is something that really does power through in lots of Argentina.
Right.
I mean, it's through the DNA of it,
And
for sure.
pomegranate acidity that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I
I remember the first time I said that to you, and you were like,
yes, pomegranate.
Yeah.
And one day in the supermarket I found a pomegranate. I actually bought it, brewed the coffee, had the pomegranate. I was sipping the coffee and eating the pomegranate at the same time, and I'm like, yeah, I see it. Yeah, definitely is there.
He's just being kind. So, before we go and brew the coffees, I want to take this opportunity to talk to you about La Manuela.
Oh, yes.
So Ali got bored with only having 90% crop this year. So
no, not really that. My neighbor didn't work the farm. My neighboring farm was also 50 manzana, same size as Argentina.
And hence a lot of the problem with the leaf rust was because he wasn't maintaining his land.
He did only, he would clean, the weeds twice a year, maybe one fertilization, that was it. So they didn't manage the farm. All the leaf rust from that farm blew over into Argentina, created all this chaos, and eventually they put up the farm up for sale, and we jumped on the opportunity. It's great because now we have more land to manage on the same site. We know the site is great, so we're really excited about it. So first thing we did is uprooted all the trees that died because of the leaf rust.
Super overgrown. So like on last visit we went up there and you were just in the process of cutting down all the trees and letting the sunlight come through.
Yeah. So it's a brand new farm that we're working on.
And when can we expect to see the first harvest from there? Are you harvesting this year?
We're gonna cup it this year with Steve. See if he likes it, and if he likes it, he may be in my mug soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
That could be good. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah,
so is it? Are you doing replantings there as well? Have you got like a replanting program there? And is there particular varietals you're looking to go down the route of there?
So we're replanting the Cari more because we've had good experiences with it, and we're also looking at some Pacamara to put into that farm and Yellow Ica too. So
interesting.
I expect this year we're planting 55,000 trees. Last year we planted 20,000 trees. And the following year we're gonna take a hiatus from planting on Manuela. We're actually working on Argentina, and then we're coming back to Manuela to finish off.
Fantastic.
All the different
and
stuff.
you've got plans, only to kind of do the nursery at the farm a little bit more and do your own planting there. And you were talking to me last time we was there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've tried to explain to these guys about the geothermal stuff going on underneath the thing and like the little blowholes, and you can see the smoke coming out the side of the mountain. Explain to them in proper language what's actually going on in the mountain and what those smoke billowing out are, and the big cap things that they've got.
So on the mountain range, it's actually an active volcano chain, I would say. So we have all these volcanic vents nearby, and that area is very prolific with volcanic vents. The largest geothermal plant in El Salvador is actually 30-minute drive from Argentina, and there's a huge vent on the farm next to ours. On our actual farm, we sold to the geothermal company 4 manzanas that they actually drilled 2.8 kilometers deep for geothermal energy. So that's something that they may develop at some point in the future. And basically what you see in Argentina is all these steam and heat coming off the ground, sulfur smelling too. It smells like
you get a
sulfur.
bit of scorching sometimes, don't you, on the plants and things, and that's particularly on
Los Mangos.
Los Mangos, yes. Yeah.
And I think I took you over to, we have some mud springs, I like to call them, because basically the soil is so hot that the soil just boils over with the water, and it's like muddy, and it's just scary.
It's fantastic. It's a unique place. It's definitely a unique farm. So we should whack these guys on pause.
Right.
Actually, no, before we do that, we'll whack them on pause, and here's this week's map bit so you can see the geothermic bits. So here I am, but I'm also joined this time with Ali because he's come on the mic. Say hello, Ali.
Hey, hello guys.
So we're going up and away, and that's England.
Inglaterra, yes.
Inglaterra, see. So here we are in Central America. A lot of coffees from Central America and an awful lot from El Salvador. We kind of have a whole spine of coffees in El Salvador. I'm going to hand you over now to Ali to tell you about this bit.
So we're zooming in El Salvador, as you can see. And it is known as the land of the volcanoes. That's what Cuscatlan actually means, is the valley of the hammocks, because you shake so much. Now we're zooming into the west part of the country. And you can see Finca, Argentina up there. We're starting to zoom in. Is in Apaneca-Lamatepec range. And that's
the actual house there, isn't it? So you can.
Yeah.
It was obviously a clear day when Google Earth came to town.
True. That big patch you see there is the geothermal, perforations that they did on the farm.
So that was the bit that you were saying that you sold to the geothermic company.
Yeah.
Is that Guatemala in the distance?
And in the back you see Guatemala, the yellow line to the left. That would be Guatemala. And taking Steve to see some farms on the right side of that this year.
Fantastic! I can't wait. It's a part of the country I've never been to, so it's kind of good to get the other bit. And there we can see how close the Pacific Ocean is really to the farm. But we're at 1,400 meters, but that close to the sea. So it's a steep up volcano part, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, as you can notice from this zoom in picture. Yeah.
And that was the jewel, that bit. Well done, mate.
Thanks.
So this week we should go to Roland's Daft Fact of the Week. So, Roland, tell us your daft fact of the week.
So, El Salvador actually has the first country in the world with an elected government from a former guerrilla group. This happened in 2009. The group, with the FMLN, fought during the Civil War, and after the peace agreements decided to become a political party and became the first political party former guerrillas to actually gain power through democratic elections. And that is your daft fact of the week.
That was scary. Right, we are going to whap you on pause now. We're going to go and make tasty and delicious drinks. We'll be back with you in just a second. So we're back. We should dive straight into the espresso. I'll let you try it first.
Sure.
It gives you a chance to have a think about what you want to say. What do you think you're tasting in there? So the thing for me with Fincona 2 is that acidity. The orange acidity's there, but for me it's a little bit more like lemon-like. It's very citrusy. It's very citrusy. I just get these hints of lemon. And as an espresso, I think it's really kind of like, wow, it's like really almost Kenyan-esque with that kind of high acidity.
Sure, I can see that, but it's also, I'm not a big espresso guy, but I tasted it and I thought, oh, this is nice. It's well balanced. So
there's definitely more
acidity.
Sweetness than you would find, and then that's a great. For me, washed El Salvadorian coffees are sweet city, and give me sweetness in an espresso. I'm a happy man.
Right.
Let you try it in cappuccino.
Sure.
Chris has done lovely art on the cappuccino for us. Well, Chris made the drinks today. Well, I made the Chemex, but Chris made the drinks today. So what I'm expecting is the sweetness getting increased in this and the acidity dropping off, because as soon as you add milk to it, And exactly what I expected. It's the sweetness of the milk just brings out the sweetness of the coffee, and that kind of whole chocolatey, but mouthfeel as well. So it just thickens the mouthfeel up, and it's just more. That's good. That's actually a really good cappuccino. The milk's great on that too.
This is the type of cappuccino I would get before going to bed, actually.
No, very
the milk
much.
is great, and you have that great taste, and awesome.
Before we move on to the cappuccino, like the brewed coffee part of it, because we've had espresso and cappuccino, I've also got to say well done to Dale, who is the Midlands Barista Champion as of last Sunday. Competed again. Do you think he'll do better than second this year?
I hope so.
I think Maxwell will nobble him again.
I hope so. At least, well, who knows?
Who knows? But super well done to Dale. Very proud. Competed under the Has-Been banner, and did really, really good. Scored an amazing score. Didn't use your coffee this year though.
For this regional, he said he was just grabbing what was available. Wasn't going too crazy.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what he uses. Yeah.
We will. Exciting times. I've also got another thank you to do, because Simeon Walker has sent me in a mug. I basically, if people send me a mug, I send them a in my mug t-shirt that you can't buy. You can only get given one. So Simeon, you're going to get your t-shirt. It is on its way to you. Thank you very much. I love mugs. Babylon 5 as well. Whatever happened to Babylon 5?
I have no idea. I actually never watched.
No?
No. At that point, I was still watching Star Trek, actually. Then it's Star Trek Next Generation. And then after a while, I just didn't want more sci-fi in my life.
And Ali has the Has-Been guest mug.
Oh,
as you are a guest on my show.
Excellent,
so,
thank you.
I thought about this stuff. I think about the mugs that I use, every week. Nobody notices, but I think about them. So for me, this is where this coffee comes into its own. I love your coffees as brewed coffee. I think they're great espressos, I really do. And particularly the San Jorge is a great espresso. But as brewed coffee, the rest of the farm for me just sings. Like, the mouthfeel gets increased. So that lemon acidity is big there. I get a real kind of melted butter mouthfeel to it. It's thick, but it's sweet. It's almost like, like the like popcorn butter, that kind of like stickiness.
The one that you,
I really, really like this coffee as a brewed coffee. I think it sings, it comes into its own,
it's a great everyday coffee. I mean, I've just been transported back to a lunch in my parents' house in Salvador. That's what we get right after that.
That's what El Salvador coffees do well, though. It's that they're drinkable, quaffable, interesting, delicious coffees. They're they're not too complicated. There's enough in there for a geek, but there's enough in there just to enjoy it and sit back and go, yeah, that's good. Yeah. And made by the King of Chemex as well, of course.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think that's what's nailed it. So, anyway, enough silliness. We are done here. Thank you very much for joining us both.
Thank you.
As you're sitting in the presenter's seat, you've got to say the life's too short for bad coffee, I'm afraid. So over to you.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because I'm not the presenter. I should have the guest mug, really.
Yeah. remember, life is too short for bad coffee.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Cheers. It's actually good coffee.
Of course it is.
Yeah.